From the studios of Staten Island Community Television, you're watching In the Bleachers, the TV show for the world's most passionate sports fans. Hello, everyone. I'm Jaime Hixson, joined by my dear friend over the phone.
The man of the hour with the power. The hardest, baddest, sexiest man on cable access TV. Yours truly. The only man that's willing to put up with you is Hector Bosa. That's right. It is I, the genius at work.
If I had a nickel for every time a person had to put up with you, I'd be a trillionaire.
I know, because they like me better. That's why.
No, they don't.
Yeah, they love me.
No, they don't. They can't stand you.
Horseman over there that you got.
They can't stand you.
Other than that, everybody loves me.
No.
They know I take care of them.
No.
Even the ladies know I'll take care of them one way or another.
Oh, please.
You know, because, and that's the thing, anytime I hear things of that nature, all I hear is jealousy.
I'm not jealous of you.
All I hear is jealousy.
If anything, you should be jealous of
I
me.
Hear something of that nature, all I hear is jealousy.
The only person who's jealous around here is you.
Just like the New York Knicks, the mighty New York Knicks.
Here we go.
That will be going to the playoffs. Since 12 years ago, I think, if my math correctly.
8 years.
This is a team that wasn't supposed to make it to the playoffs. And you, sir, are the one that's always saying they'll never make the playoffs. So.
I didn't say never. I said won't.
Yes. Because every year I tell you the Knicks will make the playoffs, you'll say, no, they'll never make the playoffs or they won't make the playoffs.
And what happened the previous 7 years? Nothing.
Yes, and they almost made the playoffs. And
no, there was no almost about it. They were not even close to it.
So, yes. And between the 7 years, I don't know what the heck they were doing, but here they are. On top of the heap, king of the world, like Frank Sinatra says, and you're there moping. Are you happy that the Knicks made it, or are you going back on your word that the Knicks shouldn't have made it?
First of all, are we supposed to throw a ticker tape parade just because they made the playoffs? I mean, you're making it sound like they won a freaking championship.
Since they made the playoffs, and you, of all people, always saying they never make the playoffs. You said it yourself.
Can we get to the task at hand here, please?
Yes. Let's see. Let's take the task at hand. Go ahead.
Now that they have made the postseason, we should focus on their first round opponent, which is Atlanta. A very good team with a great point guard, Trae Young, a good big man, John Collins, but at the same time could also be a very good matchup for the Knicks.
Yeah, and also the guy that's got to step up is Frank Nikita, okay? Because he's your defensive specialist.
Yeah, well, let's see if he gets a little playing time first before we talk about anything else.
That can shoot, but it's Frank Nikita that has to be the stopper when they need him to be a stopper. He's got to be that defensive specialist that he can be, and everybody else got to do what they have to do. That's plain and simple. How do you match them up? On center, match them up. Player per player.
Player per player? Well,
yeah.
If you were to look at them one position after another, it's funny that you mention Frank Ntilikina because he might be needed for a matchup against the 6'1" Trae Young. Ntilikina is 6'5" with a 7-foot wingspan. So you figure that a kid like Ntilikina might be able to take Young at all costs.
He can shut him down because his best work is defensive wise. That's how come the Knicks haven't traded him yet, because he is very good defensive. Defensive wise, he's one of the best defensive players on the team.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he may not score as much as you want him to, but if everybody else around you is scoring, you know,
yeah,
be grateful that he gives you that much. Even though a player should know how to play both positions. You know, stop with giving them the point guard and the, scoring guard. Stop that nonsense. Just play guard. If you shoot the damn basket and you score, great. If you know how to pass it, great. But both people should know how to do that. That's plain and simple English. Well, this nonsense about power forward and the other forward, it's nonsense. It's just two people playing the same positions, and you're giving them different names.
Yeah, but I think it goes a little bit deeper than that, Hector, because matchups really come into play here.
No, it does. I'm just saying. No, I understand what you're saying, but I'm just saying in general, a guard is a guard and a forward is a forward. That just makes it plain in English, because back in the olden days of yesteryear, even when I wasn't born, guards were guards. They didn't have titles for guards. They just played the damn positions.
Yeah.
And when you bring a kid up from college, they have to have a specific position because they can't do anything otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Like if he's a scoring guard, but they need him for passing. It makes no sense to me sometimes, because that's how they prep the college kids up. But in this situation, the way the Knicks are, Frank Ntilikina's got to step up his game.
Yeah.
Now,
I think that goes without saying,
Hector.
Hector.
For the Knicks, you would say.
What's that?
Who's going to be the starting five for the Knicks?
Probably the same starting five that they had previously. Julius Randle, R.J. Barrett, maybe Emmanuel Quickly as a point guard.
So it's going to be Barrett and Quickly together.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's going to be at forward Obi Tobin, and at center, who's the
Probably
center?
Nerlens Noel.
Nerlens Noel, and who's the other forward?
The other forward, let's find that out right now.
You just said his name. He was the All-Star, because you got.
You mean Julius Randle?
Yeah, Julius Randle. Great. Now, who's the five for the Atlanta Hawks?
The five for the Atlanta Hawks? Well, I know three of them. Trae Young, John Collins, Clint Capella, who's a great defensive player.
And what positions do they play? I know
Capella he's about 6'10" or 6'11", but he plays that position. He plays center very, very well.
Right.
So I would not put it past him to come up with some big defensive stops.
Right. And Trae Young plays guard.
Mm-hmm.
And Collins, he plays forward.
Collins is actually a power forward / center.
Yeah, power forward / guard, right?
Power forward / center.
Oh, power forward / center. Okay. Hey, and who are the other two or three that's left over?
Let me find that out for you right now.
Because match per match, I mean, the Knicks have taken the Hawks series-wise.
Mm-hmm.
But this is another level of the playoffs, This is the playoffs. This isn't a regular game. Now, we can hope that, whatever has happened to the Islanders, who they've won their first game in the playoffs, defeating Pittsburgh. That'll rub
I
off
tell you,
with-
they have this knack for pulling a rabbit out of a hat every once in a while. And let me tell you, the way they were able to stay in there against the Penguins yesterday, it just goes to show you how great of a job Lou Lamoriello has done putting that team together.
That is true. That's true.
Not only that, but the Penguins, do you know they've now lost 11 of their last 12 playoff games overall? That's a team that's in a postseason slump.
Now, they've gone through overhauls, too, with coaches and general managers, correct?
Mm-hmm. Speaking of overhauls, did you hear what the Rangers did? Not only did they fire their entire front office staff, they also fired their entire coaching staff.
So they fired their entire coaching staff. They fired the GM.
They fired the general manager. They fired the president. They fired the head coach. They fired his assistants.
Oh, I'm going to love to see who they're going to bring in.
Your guess is as good as mine.
Who's out there?
I'm sure there's somebody out there, but to be quite honest with you, your guess is as good as mine. I couldn't even begin to tell you.
So going back to the Hawks for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Who's left?
Here, let me find out for you.
Because you got, like I said, Collins at forward. You got the center, and you got Trae Young at guard. You're missing the other guard and the other forward.
Mm-hmm. You'll have to excuse the silence, folks. I'm still trying to go through the NBA.
Well, then I'll talk and you do silence. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say there are 300 shows about to come up soon. Sooner than later, we're about 7 days, 7 shows away. And we're going to have a good time.
Yes, we are. And
Yes.
hopefully, Hector, you'll be here in the studio for that day.
Yes. Should I come stag or should I come with all the women? No, if I come with all the women, then you'll get jealous. So you know what? I'll just come stag.
I keep telling you there are no women, first
I'll
of all.
just
And
come in
second of
stag.
all, if anybody should be jealous around here, it's you.
Hell, you'd even get jealous if I bring in the blow-up doll.
You're an idiot.
So, did you find out the information yet?
Still looking for it.
Wow. But I tell you, that Rangers stuff is amazing. Because on paper, they're supposed to have a good team next year.
They've got good young
Devils.
players. Let's put it that way. They've got some really
They have
good young players.
And even the Devils,
Mm-hmm.
even though they were lousy this year, but they're rebuilding for next year. And it seems that all New York teams, from the Jets, Giants, even the New York teams, even though the Yankees have a lot of people in the injuries list, or because of COVID, and the Mets as well, whether it's on paper, whether they're playing, New York is having a great time.
Yeah, they are.
New Yorkers are having a great time because all the sports teams, whether it's on paper or whether it's live, all New York teams are doing well.
Mm-hmm.
And I was hearing that kid from Chicago, I forgot the guy's name, but a rookie. He's making headlines down there too. But I'm telling you, Pittsburgh and the Islanders, I think they'll take it in 5 or 6.
Game 2 is going to be really important, though. If the Islanders can take Game 2, then all the pressure will be on the Penguins.
Because no matter what they do, they can't get over that blasted hump.
Yeah.
And but the thing is, what is it about the Penguins that they can't get over the hump?
Well, the part of the problem is Sidney Crosby doesn't score enough. The other problem is I think they're a little weak in the goaltender spot.
But if they're able to make it to the playoffs sometimes and make it even to the second round, I mean, something's got to be doing something right,
Mm-hmm.
But it just happens to be that way. So, again, did you find the list yet?
Yeah. Just to give you an idea who the Knicks are dealing with, we mentioned 3 very good players already. John Collins, Trae Young, and Clint Capella. But then you add Bogdan Bogdanović, who's a really good scorer. Chris Dunn, who's a solid point guard. The ex-Knick Danilo Gallinari, who's really grown to be a serviceable player in these past, I'd say, 15 years. DeAndre Hunter, who's a really good swingman.
But player per player, if you go and say, okay, R.J. Barrett and Trae Young, who do you go for?
Trae Young is explosive. So I give Trae Young an easy advantage there.
Over R.J. Barrett?
Without question. Trae Young averages about 25 to 30 a game.
Okay, now Emmanuel Quigley over the other guard. If he starts.
Yeah, you're probably talking about Chris Dunn.
Right.
Quigley, I think, would be a little bit, for lack of a better word, too quick for a guy like Chris Dunn. Chris Dunn
Quigley's too quick for Quigley.
I think Emmanuel Quigley might be too quick for himself sometimes.
Yeah. Okay, forward. Obi Toppin and the other Hawk. What's his name?
Obi Toppin and maybe Danilo Gallinari. Obi Toppin can score, but the problem is
his outside shooting is questionable.
He can make an occasional 3, but he's a lot more dangerous on the open court.
His defense is good, better than Gallinari's.
Yeah, I don't know. He's got a little lead in his legs. He has major problems catching up with more athletic players.
But Gallinari's not that. Gallinari's a slow player.
He's a slow player, but the kid can shoot.
He shoots fast, but he's not a fast ball player. He's a set shooter. You give him the ball, he'll shoot. But he's not one of those that's going to, run past you. No. That guy, no. Mm-mm. So who do you give the edge to?
I still give the edge to Gallinari.
Because of his outside shooting.
And because of his years of experience.
Okay, center.
Center, John Collins and Nerlens Noel. Nerlens Noel is a terrific shot blocker and a very well played defensive player, if you will. John Collins, this is a guy who could score on the post. So Noel really has to keep his guard up if he's going to try and stop Collins.
So who's the advantage?
I'd have to
Does
give
Noel
Collins
have the advantage, or does Collins have the advantage over Noel, or is it equal?
I think Collins is the better scorer, but Noel is the better defensive player. And as we all know, the best offense is a good defense. So
Because remember, I think the Knicks are third in the league in defense, or first in the league. I'm not sure.
mm-hmm.
So you got to bring that into consideration. That that the Knicks have won over the Hawks a lot more than the Knicks have, lost against the Hawks. But, okay, then you got the other forward position.
The other forward, which is probably small forward.
Who's the forward for the Knicks again?
You're probably talking about Julius Randle.
Julius Randle, and then you got the other guy.
Probably Clint Capella.
Okay, so let me ask you.
And Capella's a
who's got
terrific
the better
defensive
bench?
player. Who's got the better bench?
Right.
Well, if you were to look at the guys one by one,
Mm-hmm.
you have a guy who's been sixth man of the year more than once, Lou Williams. Tony Snell, who's a heady player. Cam Reddish, who could score at times. A pretty good rookie, Onyeka Okongwu, who came out of USC. DeAndre Hunter also, who's a steady swing man. As far as who the Knicks have coming off their bench,
Well, you got Derrick Rose.
Reggie Bullock, Alec Burks, Taj Gibson, Kevin Knox,
Peyton.
Ntilikina, Elfrid Payton.
Right.
Quickly. Mitchell, well, I was going to say Mitchell Robinson, but he's barely been heard from. Derrick Rose is probably the top sixth man that they have.
He's another sixth man a year in award.
Yep.
He's won his share too.
Mm-hmm.
So,
speaking of the
like
Knicks, did you hear about that? Did you hear about the guard that they signed from the Spanish league?
Yeah.
Luca Vildoza.
Yeah, he may come next year.
He is going to come next year. They gave him a really handsome contract. So he's going to be bringing the ball up court for the next 3 years, and they say that he is a very, very steady point guard.
All right, how tall is he?
Luca Vildoza, let me get these stats for you.
He's a point guard, right?
Yeah, he's a point guard.
Okay. So he's a passer. All right.
Here we are.
Here you are to save the day.
He's only 6'2", so he's kind of undersized.
Well, for basketball, player height, that's about average, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But do you have his stats there?
Let's see here. 6'2", plays point guard and shooting guard. He's originally from Argentina,
Mm-hmm.
and he's played for both teams in Spain and Italy. And here we are. Let's see. He played. These are his statistics for Baskonia, which is in Spain. 24 games, 13.2 minutes, 4.5 points, 2 assists per game. 34 games, 22.5 minutes, 9.1 points, 3.8 assists per game. And then 32 games, 25.1 minutes, 10.3 points, 3.5 assists per game.
So, do you think he'll start next year?
Do I think he'll start? He's going to have to. He's
Or
going to try
come
and
off
have
the
to
bench
earn it
next
during
year?
training camp next year.
He'll be on the bench next year.
Maybe he'd be the first point guard coming off the bench. We're not really sure. Tell you what, though, they're going to have a lot to work with at guard, not just point guard, but shooting guard next season.
Why would you say that?
Because they're loaded at the guard position. I mean,
well, tell the fans. Tell me too. Tell me.
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Technically, they're 10 deep at guard. I mean,
10 deep. Who are these people?
R.J. Barrett, who's a swing man. Reggie Bullock, who's a swing man. Alec
Wait
Burks.
a minute. Think of it this way. Okay, R.J. Barrett, he's going to be on the team. Bullock, he's got a 1-year contract. He may not be there next year.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Alec Burks.
Go ahead. Who's next?
Alec Burks.
Alex Burks. He may not be there next year either.
Mm-hmm.
They're playing for their lives. Go ahead.
Let's see here. Ntilikina, of course.
Yeah, I think he's at the end of the... He's got 1 more year on his contract, unless they trade him.
Elfrid Payton.
He's gone. He's probably gone next year, unless the Knicks sign him. He's got one. He's got this year, and that's it.
Theo Pinson.
Who?
Theo Pinson. The former
Has
Net.
he played?
Barely.
He may not make the team. It all depends.
Emmanuel Quigley, of course.
Yeah, he's got a guaranteed contract. Okay.
And Derrick Rose.
He's got a guarantee, too. So you have 3 players that have guaranteed contracts. Now 4th with the Spanish kid. You got four players that have guaranteed contracts. The rest is this year. So I sent you the article about who they may get next year.
Yeah.
Who they may get next year, which is either... It's always the same people, you know. It's either Ball, LeVar Ball.
You mean Lonzo Ball?
Lonzo Ball.
LeVar's his dad.
Kyrie Lowell.
You mean Kyle Lowry?
Yeah, Kyle Lowry. There's a couple of them.
Kyle.
Tupo.
I'll tell you what. The most talented of the two is easily Lonzo Ball, but probably your best bet.
Now, do you think Milwaukee will keep him? Because that's he's not a free agent. He is a you got to match his salary. The team's got to match his salary. Now the thing is, they've got so many guards themselves over in Milwaukee,
mm-hmm.
and supposedly better than him. Do you keep him? And the Knicks are willing to pay for him, let's say. Let's say it's just the Knicks, because I'm sure there's plenty of other teams that are willing to pay for him. But let's say it's just the Knicks. Do you think Milwaukee will try to match the salary, or will they just say, let him go?
That's a great question. I couldn't even begin to tell you.
Because remember, if you look at the Milwaukee Bucks, who also made the playoffs too, who also made the playoffs this year as well, you know, you got to see it. If you look at their guard situation, they're stacked. Now that team is stacked with guards, from what I keep on hearing on the radio and on TV, from all the sports channels. They're saying that they're stacked. So by that assumption, if Alonzo Ball is the third or fourth guard or the fifth guard coming off the bench because the other players are supposedly better, why would you match for him unless, you're going to either sign and trade him or I don't know how the other guard situation with the contract situation is. So you tell me, do you think that they have a shot, or do you think all the other players that I sent you, you think the Knicks? I think the Knicks have a shot for one or both of those players to come now that they've shown that they're contenders.
Can you tell me again which of these players you're talking about? Because the one guy that I have my focus on is Kyle Lowry. I think Kyle Lowry would be perfect to run the point for the Knicks.
Well, how old is he, first of all?
He is about 34 years old.
Okay, his age is a problem.
Yeah, his age is a problem.
His age is a problem because I think Julius Randle is the oldest one there, 29.
And that's
Everybody
really not
else
saying
is
much.
Between, 18 to about 24?
Mm-hmm.
And Derrick Rose is another one that's 28 somewhere, 29 somewhere, I think.
I think he's about 30 or 31 years old.
Okay, but they use him as a backup.
Right.
But other than that, if the average number for that team is 19 to about 24, 25, I think. Because Obi Thompson is, 22?
Yeah.
And Kevin Knox is 20. Frank Ntilikina is 22. R.J. Barrett, I think, is 22, I think. Emmanuel Quigley is about 20-something, too. So, think about it. You are either going to get him and another guy and trying to sign Julius Randle, or, are the Knicks like the Nets?
The Knicks are nothing like the Nets. Because
No,
the Nets
what
have
I
better
mean is,
ownership.
are the Knicks like the Nets?
No.
Do you think people now want to play with them?
Well, because the Knicks made the playoffs, I would think that there would maybe be some not superstars, but I would say second or third tier stars that would consider working with them.
Because there was a kid from L.A., the guy with the blonde hair.
Mm-hmm.
The guy with the blonde hair in the middle. They're talking about getting him. They're talking about getting the kid from, I think, Chicago.
You mean Zach LaVine?
Yeah, I think, or Dennis something. I didn't quite get him, but I sent you the article. And if they can't get the tier names, I think the guy from Orlando or one of them guys, I'm not sure. But I know that he's a guard, and he's up there. He's like, you get rid of your superstars, and then you got them, which they're up-and-coming stars.
By the way, did you get the 2 articles that I sent you just yesterday?
Yeah, that's great. Tell the people out there the articles.
Well, the first one was hysterical. The Nets were playing just last night against the. Let me find out for you.
Well, I'll tell them the second article. which is Marv Albert, retiring after the playoffs. So he finally may call a Knicks playoffs.
Yeah.
He's finally going to call a Knicks playoffs and then retire. So I don't know. Is he the oldest of the brothers?
Yeah, he's 79 years old.
Yeah, he's the oldest of the brothers, right.
Anyway, we would be remiss if we did not reflect back on Mr. Albert's career. I mean, the voice of the Knicks for 37 years. Then
Until he got caught with that scandal.
Mm-hmm. And then unceremoniously fired by that creepazoid, Mr. Dolan.
The Putz.
And then he became the voice of the Brooklyn, then the New Jersey Nets for about 6 or 7 years. And then he was the voice of the NBA on NBC. Then became the voice of the NBA on TNT. And he's also called the NFL. He's also called hockey. As a matter of fact,
he called everything.
Yeah,
he called every sport.
As a matter of fact, he called the 7th and deciding game of the Stanley Cup Finals between the Rangers and the Canucks in 1994.
Didn't he call one of the Olympic Games too?
Yes, he has called the Olympics as well. This is a guy that has done anything and everything that is a major sporting event in this world.
And he's got the catchphrase. Yes!
Yep. It was short and simple, but it was catchy.
It was the way he said it, that's all. It was the way he said it, and it was funny. It was because when they scored, it was, yes!
Mm-hmm.
Patrick Ewing!
Yep. Patrick Ewing, Michael Jordan. He's called every single superstar's name.
So what was the other article about now?
Well, just to give you an idea, the Nets played last night.
Right.
And James Harden was benched for the game as an injury management kind of thing.
They're trying to save him. Okay.
Yeah, they're trying to save him for the playoffs. Do you know that this guy was caught on the bench sitting down and having a smoothie? And it started a meme.
Yeah. Let me ask you. Speaking of the Nets for a moment, the Knicks are the top of the town, king of the heap, or should I say king of the hill, and you got the Brooklyn Nets who are built to win now.
Yeah, this is a really exciting time to be a basketball fan in this city, but at the same time, it's also a very important time for both of these teams. Because
exactly. And
think what would happen if...
How far... Let me ask you this. How far do you think the Knicks will go, and how far do you think the Nets will go?
I think they can both win a round.
Do you think that I think the Brooklyn Nets can go all the way. Because they're built to go all the way.
They're definitely built to go all the way, but at the same time, you have to look at the Eastern Conference itself and see who stands in the Nets and Knicks' way.
Oh, well, I think, who are they playing? The Milwaukee Bucks?
Well, the Nets are playing the 7th seed. It's going to be either Washington or Boston. The Knicks have the Hawks, of course. Philadelphia is the number 1 seed.
Boston, and if they could all be on the same page, and if all of them can be on the same team, because they've only played 8 games with all 3 or 4 of the people being there.
Tell you what, I think both Boston and Washington can be very, very pesky for the Nets. I think that they can each give them a real series.
I think the Nets, if they don't go all the way this year, it's very disappointing. Or if they don't get further into the playoffs, because that's what they're built for. They weren't built to play. I mean, they weren't built to play it again. They're built to win the playoffs. Because look who they have. That is an all-star team.
Yeah. But just because they're an all-star team doesn't guarantee them a championship.
It's supposed to, because every other all-star team has done it.
Yes,
Lakers,
but not every all-star team consists of LeBron James and
no, think of it.
And others.
But who do you have on the Lakers that's an all-star? LeBron James and AD.
Yeah, Anthony Davis.
Anthony Davis, right?
Mm-hmm.
You take those two out of the equation, and they just have a nice team.
Yeah.
Okay? But the Nets, call them out. James Harden. Kevin Garnett.
Kevin Durant.
Kevin Durant. Kyrie Irving.
Mm-hmm.
Blake Griffin.
Blake Griffin also.
The guy that's playing center, even though he's a forward.
Yeah.
Which I forgot his name, but he's a damn good ball player too. And you got the rest of the
DeAndre
Nets
Jordan also.
Huh?
DeAndre Jordan also.
Yeah, he's playing. Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, but he's a forward. He's not a center.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, so he's playing out of position. But you know what? If you're 6'10" or something, you should be able to play all three positions. But you know, it's all different to some degree. But other than that, the rest of the team, but that's an all-star team. If you can't win with those guys, don't even bother. If you can't go deeper into the playoffs or go to the championship, then it wasn't, because it's all or nothing right now. It's all or nothing with the Nets.
Yeah.
Now in the West, which is harder, has been a harder division more than anybody. The Lakers were in second place.
And now look where they are. They're around ninth or 10th, or maybe 7th or 8th or 9th or 10th place. I could probably find that out for you right now.
Yeah, go ahead, but you know what they're saying on the radio, though? That the Lakers are the team to beat.
The Lakers are in 7th place. And they have to play the Warriors in a play-in game.
The Warriors are in the 8th place.
The Warriors are in 8th place, and they have to face the Lakers for the chance to be...
From what I hear on the radio, is that they're the team to beat. You got to knock out the Lakers, because that's when LeBron takes over.
Yeah.
He's like Jordan. Once the playoffs comes, he becomes Mr. Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And if the Brooklyn Nets do not go deeper into the playoffs,
it's going to be a colossal disappointment if they don't make at least the Eastern Conference Finals or the NBA Finals.
They'll make the first round, and then that's it.
What's that?
Do you think that the Knicks it's one and done with the Knicks? They'll make the first round of the playoffs, and then that's it. They won't go any further.
I think they can beat Atlanta, but you have to consider who would be next in waiting for the Knicks in the Eastern Conference semifinals. It's Philadelphia, which has Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, probably the most gruesome twosome that could step onto an NBA floor.
Okay. Now, let's say, so you think that the Phillies,
the Sixers
will have it over the Knicks?
I think the Sixers, to be quite honest with you, can beat the Knicks. And it would take a 5-game series, too.
Now, the Nets, like I said, this team is built to win now.
Yeah.
They're built to win for at least 3 years. If they don't win a championship within the 3-year period, because they're not young men, they're a little older now. And they're breaking down each time.
Mm-hmm.
And if the Brooklyn Nets, do not go deeper into the playoffs, then it wasn't one and done. They'll make the first round of the playoffs, and then that's it. They won't go any further. I think the Nets, one and done with the Knicks. I think the Nets, one and done with the Knicks. If they don't win within the 3-year time period, then it was a failure.
It was it's
if
been a
they don't win a
disappointment so
championship-
far. It's been a disappointment so far because they can't get a lot of their guys to be healthy. They only got 7 games together with these guys all season.
It's 8 games together with them.
8 games.
It's been 8 games since they've all played together. And that's what I'm saying. If they get on the court and they show their stuff, they got to go deeper into the playoffs. They got to be. Put it this way: if they don't go into the championship game, then it's useless.
Yeah.
And if they don't do it within the first 3 years or 4, if they don't do it, then it was a bust because these players were supposed to win or are supposed to win the championship. And in the West, I'm sure you have the list. And the thing is that the Lakers, people are more afraid of the Lakers more than anybody, and they're in 7th place. Even though they were in 2nd place in their division.
Because they're the defending NBA champions, and they're going to be getting LeBron and AD back to work together for a 7-game series.
And they also step it up a notch, too.
Mm-hmm.
So, let me ask you, on the Eastern Division side, what's the brackets? Who's playing who? And on the Western Division, who's playing who? I know you got the Western Division. Who's playing who?
Well, there's the play-in games first. There's the Celtics taking on the Wizards, which is...
who's winning that one?
I like Boston to win that one, to be honest with you. I think the Celtics have more youth and more talent.
Okay.
The Wizards are basically Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal and a hodgepodge of other players. Then there's that other play-in game, Hornets and Pacers. The Hornets are really, really interesting because not only do they have LaMelo Ball as their point guard, they've also got a real plethora of good young players that could probably take around and be really pesky for a team down the road.
Okay.
Whereas the Pacers, I couldn't even begin to tell you about these Pacers because you don't know which team is going to show up. That's what makes them so dangerous. For the record, I like the Celtics to win that play-in and then play the Nets.
You got the Celtics and you got the Pacers to win. Who else?
I actually like Charlotte to beat Indiana, to be honest with you. So let's just assume that the Hornets and the Celtics win their play-in games. The Hornets would play the Sixers. I think the Sixers will stomp on the Hornets 4 straight. And then there's the Nets going up against the Celtics. I think the Nets could probably win this in 5 games.
Who are the Nets playing first? In the first bracket, just go by the first bracket for a second.
Then you're probably talking about the play-in games.
Yes.
All right. Let's see. Western
you
Conference.
You had the Celtics.
Celtics and
the
Wizards.
Celtics, and you picked the Pacers.
No, I picked the Hornets to beat the Pacers.
Oh, you picked the Hornets to beat the Pacers. Okay, so you got the Celtics and the Hornets. Okay, who else?
Then there's the Western Conference play-ins.
No, who are the Nets and Knicks? Don't forget the Nets and Knicks. So you got the Knicks over the Hawks.
Yeah, I think the Knicks can win around against the Hawks.
And the Nets over who?
The Nets would play either the Celtics or the Wizards.
The Celtics or the Wizards. Okay, Western Division.
Western Conference?
Yes.
Probably the best play-in of that group right now. Lakers and Warriors, which sounds more like a Western Conference final than a Western Conference play-in.
That's a tough call.
No kidding.
So who would you pick? I mean, the likely pick would be the Lakers.
I still like the Warriors. Actually, I still like the Lakers to win this one over the Warriors because the Warriors are a little weak in the interior. And as far as that other playing game, Grizzlies and Spurs, a very interesting matchup of 9 and 10.
Who are you picking?
I would pick Memphis in this one. I think Memphis has the better go-to guy in Ja Morant.
So you got Memphis and the Lakers. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then comes the first round, which is Utah, which is the top seed, going up against the Memphis San Antonio winner. And then you have Phoenix, which is the 2 seed, going up against the Laker Warrior winner.
Right.
Then you have Clippers and Mavericks. Very interesting series.
Who's got it?
The Mavericks are the hottest team, and they have probably one of the second best player in this series, Luka Doncic. But the Clippers are probably a little bit more put together. I like
And
the
don't
Clippers
forget
in this one.
Porzingis.
Yeah, Kristaps Porzingis too. I like the Clippers in this one. I think they have the better go-to guy in Kawhi Leonard, and also Paul George, who could really step up big at any time. And then finally is the 3 versus 6 matchup, Denver and Portland.
Who's got it?
Portland's got the best player. In my book, Damian Lillard is a better player than Nikola Jokic. I think Nikola Jokic could be a little bit fool's gold at times. But I think the Nuggets have the better overall team. So I'm picking Denver in this one.
Okay, so those are your brackets. Now, let's say on the East again. Who was the first bracket that you said? It was the Pacers and the Celtics. So the Pacers and the Celtics play each other, right?
No, the Pacers play the Hornets in that play-in game.
Yeah, but you picked the Pacers.
No, I picked the Hornets.
Oh, you picked the Hornets.
I picked the Hornets to beat the Pacers. I think the Hornets can beat the Pacers.
And the Celtics you picked.
Yeah, I think the Celtics can beat the Wizards, to be honest with you.
Okay, so if going by what you said, so do you think the next bracket would be the Celtics versus the Hornets? Or would it be the Nets versus the Hornets? I mean, the Nets versus the Celtics or the Hornets?
My pick would be Nets and Celtics in that first round.
You got to pick the Nets.
You
have to pick the Nets.
Especially considering that Jason Tatum is still hurt and may not be able to play in this series.
Again, all-star team. And who? Let me see. If the Knicks get past the Hawks, who's the next bracket?
Philly.
Yeah. That's a tough one. That's tough because you said it before that the Sixers are. That's going to be a tough game. Mm-hmm. But you say the Sixers.
Exactly.
So it would be the Nets over the Celtics and the Sixers over the Knicks. Mm-hmm. Who's left?
Oh, Miami against Milwaukee.
And who are you picking there?
I like Milwaukee. I think they've got the most dominant player in that series, which is Giannis Antetokounmpo.
And then there's one more, right? After that?
Yeah, the Sixers would play against the 9-10 winner, which would be Pacers Hornets.
And you picked the Hornets.
Mm-hmm.
So the next bracket would be the Nets versus the Celtics.
Yep.
Milwaukee
would play Miami.
And the Hornets?
Milwaukee would play Miami.
Milwaukee would play Miami, and the Hornets would play who?
Philly. Philly would play Miami in the first round. I mean, Philly would play Charlotte in the first round.
So who would win that?
Philly would steamroll them.
Philly would steamroll them. Okay. Celtics, the Nets will beat the Nets. The Nets will beat the Celtics.
Yeah, I think the Nets can have a chance to beat the Celtics, and I think it could be a pretty quick series, too. I think it could probably go 5 games.
And then you have the Milwaukee. Who are the other 2 teams left?
Milwaukee would play Miami in the first round.
All right, and you picked Miami in that one? Or you picked Milwaukee?
I picked Milwaukee in that one.
Oh, you picked Milwaukee?
Milwaukee's got the dominant player.
So you got Milwaukee, the Nets, and the Hornets. I'm sorry, the Sixers, the Nets.
I have the Sixers, Nets, Knicks, and Bucks advancing to the Eastern Conference semifinals.
Right, and then afterwards is the Sixers versus the Knicks, and you picked Philly.
Yeah.
The Nets.
Sorry, but Philly's just
Celtics.
way too good.
Huh?
Philly's just way too good. Not only that, but going up against a 7-foot center who can not only dominate in the paint, but can also...
The Nets. You think it's going to be the Sixers versus the Brooklyn Nets?
In all likelihood, probably, yeah.
Who will win that one?
Philly played the Nets really tough over the season. I hate to say this, but I think Philly can actually...
I think the Nets will win because, like I said,
can
the
actually
Nets are
win
an
that
all-star
series.
team. If they don't win, something wrong. Now with the West, who's going to be the last 2 coming out of that division?
The last 2 coming out of the Western Conference?
Yeah. Who are they going to play each other? The last 2.
I like the Jazz. I like the Clippers. I also like the Nuggets. And I think Phoenix can squeak out of that potential series with the Lakers or the Warriors to advance to the second round.
So
I like the Jazz and the Nuggets. I like the Jazz and the Nuggets to go to the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, who do you think?
I like the Jazz and Nuggets to go to the Western Conference Finals.
The Jazz and Nuggets? You're not picking the Lakers? Who's going to knock the Lakers off?
I think Phoenix has a real opportunity. Well, to be honest with you, who can knock off the Lakers? Probably Golden State. I think not Golden State can beat them in a play-in series.
Wow. Those are some pretty good predictions. Now, let's say championship-wise, who's the last 2 for championship?
The last 2?
I picked the Nets.
Philly and Utah.
Oh, dear God. You're going against the grain. Oh, well. Ladies and gentlemen, it's 7:59. The Mets are in first place, though.
But they're playing the Braves right now, and they got swept by the Rays over the weekend. And the Yankees could only do 2 out of 3 from the Orioles.
Well, go Islanders, go all New York teams.
By the way, we have roughly 7 episodes left till our 700th episode. So we hope that you could be there for us for that big moment.
Yes, I will make the 700th episode. By hook or by crook or being naked there.
Oh, brother. For everyone here, I'm Jamie.
I'm Hector.
Good night, everyone.
Night-night.